Las empresas que practican la innovación abierta indudablemente tendrán que confiar parte de sus procesos de investigación y desarrollo o su trabajo de investigación a los grupos de interés con los que decidió probar la creatividad. La propiedad intelectual funciona de diferentes maneras. Si optamos más por la creatividad colaborativa, las protecciones son limitadas, ya que el enfoque principal es intercambiar conocimiento y con ello desarrollar más conocimiento. Si optamos por grupos de interés más sólidos, a su vez, la propiedad intelectual se vuelve más exigente y más que intercambio de información, se establecen acuerdos de exclusividad, licenciamientos, etc. En ese sentido, la innovación abierta busca incorporar conocimiento de todas las fuentes posibles, dejando claro lo siguiente: qué cosas necesitan quedar claras en pro de la reconciliación de estos términos. No hay ninguna empresa que pueda desarrollar internamente toda la innovación o tecnología que necesita. Sus productos tienen que funcionar bien en el mercado, inclusive con sus competidores. Compartir conocimiento es rentable. Sin embargo, es importante que las organizaciones encuentren un equilibrio entre la información que compartirán y el beneficio que obtendrán del trabajo colaborativo de innovación que desarrollará con esos grupos de interés. Practicar innovación abierta implica no solo hacer un gran cambio en la percepción de la estrategia de negocio y la innovación, sino a las condiciones tradicionales que la ley establece para la propiedad intelectual, especialmente la protección de patentes. Por lo tanto, la propiedad intelectual se puede utilizar de diversas maneras para adecuarse a las necesidades de la innovación abierta. Siempre existirá incertidumbre e imprecisión en los alcances del conocimiento o la tecnología que se están generando o compartiendo. Pero lo importante es dejar claro cómo se va a trabajar y documentarlo para seguridad de todas las partes involucradas. Hay diferentes grados de apertura en la innovación abierta, es por eso que se debe ser flexible en el uso de la propiedad intelectual. Puede ser que se inicien actividades y lluvias de ideas antes de formalizar un derecho de propiedad intelectual. Estas son algunas de las principales reglas promovidas en el libro Rules for Growth, que promueven el equilibrio entre la innovación y las leyes de propiedad industrial. Promover el emprendimiento. Facilitar la formación de startups de innovación con contratos flexibles que faciliten las alianzas estratégicas. Hacer más eficiente el proceso de licenciamientos para que la innovación generada se comercialice de manera más rápida. Hacer más eficiente el sistema de propiedad intelectual, en general facilitando la flexibilidad, rapidez y eficiencia al proceso de los derechos. Hasta el momento no existe la fórmula perfecta, pero la sugerencia final para tener éxito en este tipo de modelos de innovación es tener una comprensión completa de los grupos de interés con los que se desea colaborar para, en función de ello, garantizar los derechos de la propiedad intelectual para todas las partes involucradas y tener flexibilidad en el establecimiento de dichos derechos. Actividad 7. Con todo lo aprendido hasta ahora, tendrás que desarrollar el contenido de un desafío. Para ello toma en cuenta lo siguiente: ¿qué debo hacer? Desarrollar un desafío escrito y en video. ¿Qué necesito? Una problemática. Utiliza la problemática planteada en la actividad 1 y 2. Este es el momento para realizar los ajustes que consideres convenientes y lograr que se esté atendiendo una necesidad relevante al disminuir un riesgo en tu comunidad. Creatividad e imaginación. Imagina que eres un empresario con un giro relacionado a la problemática planteada y que tienes los recursos para atender dicha problemática. Trabajo colaborativo. Deberás invitar a los expertos innovadores, desarrolladores, etcétera, que en este caso podrán ser tus compañeros de escuela o tus vecinos, tú decides, que quieran participar en la solución con ideas para desarrollarla o implementarla. Trabajo colaborativo. Deberás invitar a los expertos, innovadores, desarrolladores, etcétera, que en este caso podrán ser tus compañeros de escuela, tus vecinos, tú decides, que quieran participar en la solución con ideas para desarrollarla e implementarla. ¿En qué me apoyo? Podrás hacer uso del aprendizaje de esta unidad, así como de las unidades revisadas en los semestres pasados, principalmente identificación de problemas, creatividad, innovación y storytelling. En los ejemplos de desafíos que te presentamos en esta unidad, y puedes buscar más ejemplos en Internet. ¿Qué debo entregar? El contenido del desafío, describiendo perfectamente el reto, el alcance del premio, etc. Título, contexto y descripción del reto, alcance, a quién va dirigido, quiénes participan, requisitos de solución, criterios de evaluación, indicadores de desempeño, fecha límite, premio no tiene que ser monetario, apoyo visual, un video corto, máximo 2 minutos, describiendo el reto e invitando a los participantes. Innovación desde la base de la pirámide, BOP. Los diferentes tipos de innovación que hasta ahora hemos revisado durante este semestre tienen una particularidad que no pueden pasar por desapercibida, y este es el contexto. El contexto es cimiento del problema y a su vez de la solución, de ahí su trascendencia. Esta idea será el hilo conductor de la innovación desde la base de la pirámide. La innovación desde la base de la pirámide toma particular relevancia, pues comprende al grosso de la población, que derivada de eventualidades como lo ha sido la etapa pandémica que vivimos en este año 2020, se incrementa exponencialmente. Un efecto indeseable, pues las problemáticas que se concentran en este gran bloque de la población se vuelven críticas para todos. Al ser la base de la pirámide más y más grande, se pone más en riesgo la disponibilidad de recursos naturales necesarios para cubrir sus necesidades, resultando en riesgos y problemas mundiales de los cuales todos nos volvemos responsables. Atender las necesidades de la base de la pirámide no solo responde a una necesidad inmediata de supervivencia, también abre la puerta a una economía emergente que puede traer beneficios bilaterales para quien crea la solución y para quien la recibe. En este bloque tendrás la oportunidad de motivar a los solvers a contextualizar su existencia en escenarios reales con el fin de atender las necesidades de la base de la pirámide y a su vez encontrar un propósito y una meta como agentes de innovación y creación de soluciones de impacto escalable. En este segmento encontrarás cómo es que muchas innovaciones han encontrado el camino a la escalabilidad, llegando no solo a miles de usuarios, sino teniendo un impacto relevante en sus vidas o directamente en ellos como individuos. Seguramente te estarás preguntando de qué pirámide estamos hablando y qué es la base de la pirámide. Para comenzar, deberás ver el siguiente video.
There are more than 7 billion people on this planet, but most goods and services only serve the 3 billion rich and middle-class people. The other 4 billion earning less than $8 a day are largely ignored by product manufacturers and service providers and excluded from our formal economy. These people are referred to as the base of the pyramid, or BOP, and they make up more than half of the world's population. Most of them survive on an average of just $2.50 a day. While the rich and middle class take things like electricity, water, and sewage connections for granted, the poor tend to live off the grid without electricity, water, and sanitation connections. To make things worse, due to market inefficiencies in production and distribution, they have to pay a poverty penalty for everything they buy. They earn less and have to pay more, and that's just not right. But giving charity isn't always the right answer. In fact, giving free stuff creates the price of zero. No entrepreneur can compete with this price point. Without entrepreneurs, no jobs are created locally, and therefore the poverty cycle continues. The best way to help the poor is to help them build their capacity to help themselves. We can train them in vocational skills, teach them to do business, transfer technology to them so that they can operate it, lend them money to start small businesses and make profit to sustain and grow their business and employ even more people. As more people earn more money, they generate their own economy, and soon their income becomes expenditure, and they can afford a better quality of life by being able to buy things like clean water, good sanitation and hygiene, safe housing, education, cooking stoves, solar lamps, and technology. The poor of today will become the middle-class consumers of tomorrow. By inviting them into our formal global economy, we can help them improve their lives cheaper, faster, better, and easier. With good sanitation, hygiene, and clean water, the poor can be healthy and more productive to earn more money. With technology, they can cut out the middlemen and get better prices for their produce. They can do banking and support their education through communication technology like mobile phones. BOP Hub is a driving platform to accelerate the speed of such a transformation. The BOP World Convention is the global trade convention for cross-sector collaboration, where industry players and customers meet to trade and collaborate. As businesses, funders, NGOs, social entrepreneurs, academia, governments, and technologists converge to compete to serve the poor as customers, we create an efficient marketplace where everyone forms part of a sustainable ecosystem. Just like nature has zero waste, this BOP ecosystem connects supply to demand efficiently, modeling local resources to create livelihood and generate income, while delivering products and services that improve the quality of life for people. The BOP Hub Accelerator Program will map, match, and motivate your individual effort into a synergized group effort so that companies and individuals can grow their impact without growing their overheads. A BOP Design Center will be built to facilitate the coordination of design solutions, starting from needs identification to prototype, to field testing, to procurement, to implementation, training, distribution, and market promotion. When we unlock the spirit of enterprise for the poor, we open up their pathways out of poverty. Entrepreneurship can deliver both wealth and social justice if we connect our head to our heart and our hands. Together, we can make the world fairer and better and end global poverty. BOP Hub, designing business to end poverty. Let's walk this beautiful and meaningful journey together.
En este video podrás identificar qué es la base de la pirámide y por qué se vuelve tan relevante la innovación que surge desde ahí.
My moment of serendipity happened just meters from this exact theatre. I was bicycling from my home in Ditchling Rise towards the seafront when a white van just in front of me suddenly I realised was about to swing out of his slow-moving traffic into my path in the bike lane. I was completely unseen. I wish that I'd had a presence travelling just in front of me. A virtual me, if you like, travelling in front of me to warn cars that I was approaching. That was my moment of serendipitous innovation. And I dreamed up the laser light. The laser light is designed to tackle the most common cause of cyclist fatality, which is being caught in the blind spot or a driver turning across a bike they can't see. It is a front light required after dark by law, but it also has a green laser, and it projects the symbol of a bike just in front of you onto the road, so the driver in front can see that you're coming and doesn't turn across your path. It also gives a helpful heads up to a pedestrian with a head down about to step out of the pavement. The laser light began here. I designed it as my final year project at the University of Brighton. I was previously studying physics at Oxford University, but left to pursue something more tangible and more creative. We now have a small team based in East London. We raised about £1.5 million from investors such as the Branson family and Index Ventures. We have a global supply chain. We are shipping the laser light to over 55 different countries around the world. And we are stocked in retailers such as Evans Cycles and in the MoMA Design Store in New York. We launched our second product, the burner, just before Christmas, a backlight. We launched it on Kickstarter and we wanted to raise £35,000 in a month. We did that in the first day. We went on to raise £153,000. But the most exciting news for Blaze came at the end of last year, when we announced that our laser technology is being integrated into all of the Santander cycles, or Boris bikes, in London. TfL conducted some in-depth research. They commissioned TRL, who's the Transport Research Laboratory, to conduct many experiments. They tested the effectiveness of the laser light around HGVs, buses, vans, cars, in different light conditions and different road surfaces. It was a lengthy process, and I was very nervous because I wasn't allowed to be involved at all. But they submitted a 92-page document with some amazing findings. Things like a bike with a laser light in pitch black is more visible than a bike without in broad daylight. It decreases the blind spot of an HGV by over 25% and a van by over 30%. The laser light is a very simple idea. So the laser light is a very simple idea, but it's now proven to be effective, and it's crazy enough to be a radical innovation. Now, there's long been comparisons between serendipity and innovations in science and technology. For example, Alexander Fleming and his accidental discovery of penicillin. Albert Hofmann and his possibly surprising discovery of the hallucinogenic effects of LSD when trying to find a drug to cure a migraine. And Percy Spencer and his accidental invention of the microwave. Perhaps that moment that sparks the innovation in serendipity can also be called the eureka moment. And no more obvious with the example of Archimedes when he leapt out of his bath and realised that the volume of water that he displaced was equal to the volume of his body. Now, but are these moments all true examples of serendipity? Would these things and these creations and these innovations have happened without that one unusual moment? Or are they just a clear example of a memorable, unusual moment of conception? Would Newton have discovered gravity has his proverbial apple not fallen on his head? Now, I am by no means drawing direct conclusions between the fundamental laws of physics and my own invention. But without the presence of Archimedes and the ability to ask him the question, and only able to draw on my own examples, I find it really hard to imagine creating the laser light without my eureka moment 50 yards from this building and that white van. Now, I do not believe that any of these examples occurred purely out of an unusual moment, but instead, that eureka moment combined with many, many weeks, if not decades, of research into a specific problem. Mine came on my first day of university. I just spent the summer cycling the length of the UK for charity, and I came back to university with the theme urban cycling. I had my idea. It was brilliant. I was going to do brake lights for bikes. I ran into my course leader's classroom, Mr. Morris, and said, Mr. Morris, I've got to tell you about my brilliant idea. He didn't believe me. He said, I don't think you're tackling an actual problem. Go away and do the research and really understand the problem you want to solve before you come at me with a solution. So I went away absolutely furious and determined to prove him wrong. I gave myself the theme, urban cycling, and I then gave myself the challenge. I wanted to find the biggest problem for city cyclists. I didn't care if it was getting wet, or your bike nicked, or losing your way. But it had to be the biggest problem. After kicking off some research, I quickly identified that personal safety was the biggest challenge for city cyclists. Then, after weeks of deep diving in the statistics of which accidents most commonly happen in which scenarios, the fact that being caught in the blind spot or a vehicle turning across a bike they can't see is by far the most common cause of fatality. I then spent 6 months working with a driving psychologist in Sussex. I worked with the Brighton and Hove bus company. I spent many, many hours bicycling around town with a GoPro strapped to my head, all in the quest to understand the problem first, before I found that solution, and before I found that white van. So that was one of the most important pieces of advice I think I will ever receive in my life. To really, really deep dive into a problem before you find a valuable solution. I propose that perhaps that is one of the first conditions of true innovation and serendipity. To really, really understand a problem first. Newton was dedicated to understanding why the moon was pulled to the earth. Fleming spent his life looking at bacteria. And Archimedes was determined to understand how to find the volume of an irregular object. I believe the second most important condition is being able to spot the crazy. For example, I don't believe Archimedes. Scientists will acknowledge the fact that serendipitous events can create objects of real value. They conduct experiments with very, very tight parameters in order to quickly spot what's unusual and explore that. Call it curiosity if you like. Newton didn't eat his apple. Archimedes didn't get out of the bath, dry himself and carry on with his day. And Fleming didn't throw away that petri dish. Nor did I discard the really crazy idea of strapping a laser to a bicycle to help it be more visible. So I'll leave you with a final example of serendipitous innovation. Pfizer, the drug company, were looking for a drug to treat angina, the painful heart condition. They wanted something to increase the blood flow to the heart. Instead, what they found was a lot of the male test patients discovering that blood flowed to another area. They called that drug Viagra. And so to conclude, I'd like to suggest that to create serendipitous innovation, there needs to be two conditions. One, the will to really, really understand and go deep on a problem. And two, be open and willing to discover and then explore the crazy within it. Thank you.
Ejercicio 2 de comprensión 2. Al terminar el video reflexiona cómo los solvers, la solución, como solvers, que dieron a las siguientes preguntas. De los aproximadamente 7 billones de personas, ¿cuántos integran la base de la pirámide? 2 billones, 6 billones, 4 billones. ¿Cuál es el ingreso promedio de quienes forman la base de la pirámide? $8 al día, más de $8 al día, menos de $8 al día. Son algunas de las características que refieren a la base de la pirámide, son excluidas de una economía formal e ignoradas por los grandes manufactureros de productos, representan más de la mitad de la población mundial, sobreviviendo con tan solo $2.5 al día. Son parte de una economía formal, aunque a veces son ignorados por los grandes manufactureros de productos, generan al menos $2.5 al día, generan $2.5 al día con ayuda de las empresas manufactureras de productos, a pesar de no formar parte de una economía formal. Como podrás recuperar del video, la pirámide a la que nos referimos es la forma en la que la población se distribuye de acuerdo a su capacidad económica, donde la punta refiere a la menor proporción de la población que cuenta con la mayor parte de los recursos económicos, y la base al grosso de la población, que representa la mayoría y que cuenta con menores recursos económicos. En otras palabras, si reflexionas en el número de multimillonarios que existen, encontrarás que son muy pocos comparados con la mayoría de población, y si vas disminuyendo de multimillonarios a millonarios, y luego a quienes tienen un buen poder adquisitivo, y así vas disminuyendo y sumando el número de personas en cada bloque, encontrarás algo similar a